सरल होता है वहाँ।
हम्म
वहाँ पे मैं इसके बारे में अ, अच्छे से बात कर पाता हूँ, और एफर्टलेस लगता है। उसमें इतना ज्यादा सोचना नहीं पड़ता, डर नहीं लगता।
हम्म
लेकिन
हम्म
जहाँ पर एक अथॉरिटी फिगर है, या दूसरा ऊपर मैं नीचे, या मैं ऊपर दूसरा नीचे है,
हम्म
तो डायनामिक्स थोड़े से मैंने देखा मेरे में बदल जाते हैं। जब
हम्म
दूसरे वाला पावर में थोड़ा सा नीचे है, तब तो ठीक है, छोड़ो यार, हो गई गलती अपने से, ऐसे एटीट्यूड से हम आगे बढ़ जाते हैं।
हम्म
लेकिन जब दूसरा ऊपर हो, तो हमारे मन में जो कुंठा बनी रहती है कि इसको मैं मजा चखाऊंगा, या बाद में ऐसे करूंगा, या
हम्म
जब मौका आएगा तब उसको देखा जाएगा,
हम्म
वो चीज दबती जाती है।
हम्म
लेकिन इसका हल तो मुझे लगता है डायलॉग में ही है।
हम्म
क्योंकि जहाँ पे मेरी दूसरे से सरलता है, वहाँ पे एफर्टलेसली मैं बात कर पाता हूँ, यार तूने ऐसे किया था, मेरे को
हम्म
अच्छा नहीं लगा। तो
हम्म
और दूसरा भी उसको एक्नॉलेज कर लेता है, या मैं मान लेता है कि ठीक है चलो। या फिर उसके एक्शंस में आगे नहीं दिखता, तो बात हो जाती है।
हम्म
बट मुझे लगता है कि अभी ये कहना कि गलती किसकी थी,
हम्म,
मतलब गलती तो देखो आदमी ही करेगा, आदमी से ही
हाँ
गलती होगी, कि जानवर से क्या गलती होगी,
हाँ
ठीक है।
हाँ हाँ
तो अब ये कहना कि गलती तुम्हारी थी, या गलती बड़ी थी, या 90% तुम्हारी थी, 10% मेरी थी,
हम्म
मुझे लगता है कि अभी मेरी तो कंडीशनिंग ऐसी है कि साइंटिफिक भाषा में, बाइनरी भाषा में, गणितात्मक भाषा में बात करने से, क्वांटिटेटिव रूप में बात करने से इसका हल निकलता नहीं है। बिकॉज रिश्तों में वो भाषा चलती नहीं है, उससे ना मेरे को लगता है कि ज्यादा हल की ओर नहीं जाते हैं, थोड़ा सा
हम्म
कॉम्प्लिकेट हो जाती है सिचुएशन। बिकॉज फिर
हम्म
वो बैक एंड फोर्थ नापना तोलना हो जाता है। तो
हाँ
मैं यही नहीं कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि बात, गलती के बारे में बात तो होनी चाहिए।
हाँ
क्योंकि अगर वो बात नहीं होगी, तो जाने अनजाने में वो रिपीट होगी, और फिर एक या दूसरी पार्टी या दोनों को वो अंदर ही अंदर दबता जाएगा, और वो आगे के लिए नुकसान करेगा। कभी
हम्म
कभी मुझे लगता है कि हम लोगों को बेसिक कम्युनिकेशन, हाउ टू टॉक, हाउ टू ईट, ये बेसिक चीजें, इस पे बुक लिखना पढ़ना, यही सब ही नहीं आता है हमें। मतलब मेरे को तो कभी कभी लगता है कि as basic thing as how to talk to someone you love, or how to talk to someone you respect,
हम्म
is becomes essential for us. Learning that language, learning that भाव भंगिमा, or even how to present yourself in that relationship becomes very important.
हम्म
तो ये
हम्म,
डायलॉग सीखना प्रोबेबली हमारे लिए मतलब एक है।
ठीक
और
है
उससे पहले जो सुनने की प्रैक्टिस है,
हम्म
सुनने वाला भाग ही मुझे लगता है, क्योंकि आर्ग्यूमेंट में आई वांट टू गिव आंसर राइट अवे, कि अच्छा
हाँ
तुमने बोला, ओके, आई आई हैव माय आर्ग्यूमेंट रेडी।
हाँ
जबकि सुनने वाला जो पार्ट है वो भी थोड़ा सा कम है।
हम्म हम्म
ये चीजें मैं थोड़ी सी अपने उसमें ऑब्जर्व कर पाता हूँ।
हम्म
बाकी डायलॉग वाला पार्ट तो, यहाँ तो देखो थोड़ा कड़वाहटपन होती है, वहाँ तो बहुत मुश्किल है ये कर पाना, इसको सहजता से गलती की ओर ध्यान दिला पाना, क्योंकि वो पुरानी चीजें पहले ही उठ के हो जाती हैं खड़ी। तो वही है, बस इसको जहाँ पे थोड़ी सी सहजता है, वहाँ पे अभी मैं इसको कर पा रहा हूँ।
हम्म
गलती पे गलती पे ध्यान दिलाने की जगह कि तुमने की, उसने की, ऐसे हुआ, ये हुआ,
हम्म
रादर देन ये गलती हुई, ये हो गई।
हम्म
वो वाली भाषा से जब चलते
राइट
हैं, तो थोड़ा मैंने देखा है वो नॉन ब्लेमिंग होता है।
ठीक है।
ऐसा इस चीज पे मेरा ध्यान।
बढ़िया बात है संदीप भाई, नाइस शेयरिंग। मैं इसमें मेरा जो ध्यान जा रहा है जिन बात पे ना, कि देखिए डायलॉग की बात, बोलना क्या है, ये एक स्टेप बाद में लगता है मेरे को,
हम्म
है ना। मेरे अंदर की स्थिति, चाहे उस इवेंट में या उसके बाद में, उसमें उस व्यक्ति के प्रति सम्मान का भाव है, रिस्पेक्ट है या डिसरिस्पेक्ट
हम्म
है ना। क्योंकि उसने गलती करी, ये मेरा, इसमें अभी किसी का इंटरफेरेंस नहीं है। ये मैं हूं और मेरा दर्शन है, मैं हूं और मेरी वर्ल्ड व्यू है ना। इसके अंदर इसको कैसे प्लेस करूं, मैं उसकी बात कर रहा हूँ, है ना। तो इसको जब मैं देखता हूँ तो मुझे ये बात साफ स्पष्ट दिखता है कि नहीं, डिसरिस्पेक्ट की तो जगह नहीं बनती है, गलती तो मानव जो जन्म लेता है वो गलती के अधिकार के साथ जन्म लेता है, तो गलती तो करेगा, है ना। मैं
तो
भी करता ही हूँ, आप भी करते ही, हम सभी करते हैं गलती। पर ये जो कंडीशनिंग है हमारी, जिसमें हम गलती को देख के नाराज होना या परेशान होना या डिसरिस्पेक्टफुल होना, है ना, ये जितने भी हमारे अंदर भाव उमड़ते हैं, है ना, क्योंकि सही में तो अगर आप हम सोचें तो यही लगता है कि इसको भी बैलेंस तरीके से कैसे रिजॉल्व करें ना, कोई गलती हो गई तो। बट हमारा जो रिस्पॉन्स, इनबिल्ट रिस्पॉन्स है, जो एटलीस्ट मेरा तो है, तो उसके अंदर इरिटेशन हो जाना, अपसेट हो जाना, नाराज हो जाना, चुप हो जाना, इस तरीके के रिस्पॉन्स बहुत आते हैं, है ना। कि तो ये जो बात है, इसको एड्रेस करने की बात, तो इसके अंदर अंदर के भाव को मैं देखने की बात कर रहा हूँ, अंदर के भाव में क्या भाव बना हुआ है इस व्यक्ति के प्रति, क्योंकि उसके बाद जो भी हम बोलेंगे करेंगे, उसका इम्पैक्ट जाएगा उस भाव से।
तो
चाहे वो हम उस इवेंट में बोलें, चाहे अगले दिन बोलें, या कभी भी करें, वो भाव तो जो बना हुआ है वही रहेगा। और जब
हाँ
तक इस भाव को नहीं पहचानेंगे, तब तक इसमें कोई भी सुधार होने की कोई जगह नहीं बनेगी, है ना। तो मैं अभी सामने वाले को क्या बोलेंगे इस पे बात, वो भी एक पॉइंट है, उसको भी करेंगे आगे। लेकिन अभी अपने में, अभी मैं हूं और मेरा वर्ल्ड व्यू, मैं जैसे दुनिया को देख रहा हूँ, उसके अंदर मेरे को ये जो नेगेटिव भाव बन रहा है गलती को देख के, है ना, ये एक बड़ी समस्या लगती है मेरे को, कि जिंदगी में बहुत सारा कुछ चल रहा होता है और सामने वाले, हम आपस में जी रहे होते हैं, बहुत सारी मिस्टेक्स हो रही होती हैं आसपास, है ना। तो उसका निष्कर्ष क्या निकाल रहे हैं, उसके कंक्लूजन्स हम क्या निकाल रहे हैं, उसके जो फंडामेंटल कंक्लूजन्स क्या निकल रहे हैं हमारे अंदर, जिससे हमारा भाव क्या बने, ये वाली बात।
हाँ, मेरी जो कंडीशनिंग इसको लेके है ना, वो तो काइंड ऑफ मैं देखता हूँ तो पनिशमेंट की ओर जाती है। तो जब दूसरे के को पनिशमेंट देना हो या स्ट्रिक्टनेस से वो करना हो, तो
हम्म
उसमें गुस्सा लाना, मतलब गुस्से वाला जो पार्ट है वो तो नेचुरल सा ही बन जाता है।
हम्म हम्म
अभी रिसेंटली थोड़ा वो ध्यान जाना शुरू हुआ है, जहाँ पे आप कह रहे हो कि गलती तो करेगा ही। और लेकिन मैं सच में अगर देखता हूँ तो अ, जो आसपास जो देख के मैंने सीखा वो ये है कि जब कोई गलती करे तो उसको पनिश करो। अब पनिश को बिना नाराजगी वाले भाव से किया नहीं जा सकता, डिसरिस्पेक्ट वाले भाव से किया नहीं जा सकता। गुस्सा हो,
हाँ
आखिर वो करो, थोड़ा सा तेवर बदलो। तो
हम्म
वो उसके लिए वो उस एंगल से मेरी कंडीशनिंग तो वैसी है कि उसमें वो गुस्सा ला के वो होना थोड़ा स्वाभाविक हो जाता है।
हम्म
थोड़ा है तो सही ट्रिकी।
हाँ, सोचने वाला मुद्दा है ना। पर इससे एक चीज अच्छी ध्यान में आई कि पनिशमेंट को हिंदी में दंड कहते हैं, दंड देना, है ना।
हाँ, दंड कहते हैं।
और आपने तो व्यवहार दर्शन पढ़ा ही है, और भी पुस्तकें पढ़ी हैं। तो दंड की परिभाषा यदि है मध्यस्थ दर्शन में, सुधार ही दंड है, मतलब सुधरना ही दंड है, सुधारना ही दंड है।
हम्म।
मतलब प्रताड़ना दंड नहीं है, मतलब किसी को तकलीफ पहुंचाना दंड नहीं है ना। ओके, Drishta is reminding me I have to speak in English. Yes, Gangu and Zaga there. So basically punishment in Vyavhar, in Manav Vyavhar Darshan, the book, it has been defined as correction. Correction is the self-correction or correction with the help of others is the punishment or improvement on your earlier state. That is what punishment is. It is not to give, it's not to hurt the other person. Punishment is not to hurt, it is to change, it is for correction. So if we correct our mistake, that is the punishment. If that is the kind of punishment it is talked about. Whereas even in today's systems, the punishment or correction is like putting somebody behind bars or restricting their movements or their expressions or their freedom. That is not the punishment which has been talked about here. Okay? Yeah, so that was reminded. प्रशांत भाई, आप कुछ बोलने लगे थे, you were trying to say something.
Um, you're saying namaste, namaste to everyone. Glad to join this meeting, and it's a quite crucial point that you brought up, and it's like something keeps bothering us now and then, every day, every time, and also important aspect that we can overcome this and see things in a different way so that, things improve for us and the people around us.
Mm. Mm.
And actually, you mentioned like self-evaluation and evaluation from others, like 360-degree evaluation is also
Mm.
important, where we learn about ourselves in different perspective with our behavior
Mm.
and make things simpler for us,
Mm. Mm.
for myself rather, rather than others. That way, the focus is always inward.
Right.
I always feel that, even for myself, this also applies to everyone, that the focus usually tends to be outward than inward. So I
Mm.
think I'm also kind of practicing how to keep that focus inward
Mm.
and look at these different faculties within me and
Mm.
do a self-evaluation so that
Mm.
it helps me to become more stable and look at the situation holistically for
Mm.
myself and help my situation
Right.
to improve.
Yeah.
So listening part is, I think, very important here. I mean, we have started this recently, so we have a family meeting at home every day and try to convey how the day is, how we're feeling, what's not good, what's good, and so that we come to a common ground, and that becomes a baseline for us to express and do better.
Very nice.
So I'm also learning a lot from kids because they are being in a self-directed space where they are also exploring the similar things.
Mm.
So a lot of things, are eye-opener for me
Mm. Mm.
and good learning that way.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. So yeah. So one small comment that so this attention has to be, or the focus has to be the inwards, because whatever balance or imbalances in me, that is what will manifest in the interactions also, right? So that's an important. So be observant of this. Yeah. And living will always be in interactions. Yes.
Okay. I have Advait and Snehal also with me here. They are also listening.
Okay. Good morning, Advait.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay.
Hi.
Yes, please go ahead.
No, no, we said hi.
Okay. Yes. Any thoughts? Anyone else?
I was thinking that, like for me, I've noticed that actually a big problem is that actually the templates we grew up around didn't teach us how to respond in a peaceful way and in a respectful way. We are used to being, um, shouted at or, talked to harshly to correct yourself. That's what, so it's like we haven't seen so many examples of that. So I think that's also partly why that becomes a default. Like that's what you see, like you kind of learn by imitation. So that's what one has been doing in some ways. And then I also noticed with other people, like they also, sometimes it feels like they also don't take it seriously enough until if you say something very quietly, very peacefully, then they don't feel that you really mean it or you really, it's important or something. Because they're also used to hearing, uh, being corrected in that same way. So it becomes like a self-fulfilling thing. Like you feel, okay, they won't change unless I talk to them like that. And so often I feel that kind of interaction, that's what's playing out in that kind of interaction. Whereas I've seen actually some examples of people who can remain really calm, really respectful, and just express what they need changed, or what's going on for them, or what they're understanding, without any blame, without any kind of like, you were wrong or the mistake is yours. It's almost like this situation has happened and, what can be done to correct it. and it's
Right.
nothing to do with who the person is. And then that person is much more amenable, especially if they feel that, okay, this I also don't want to be doing this thing. Then it's like they're friends, and the problem is kind of separate almost from the people, because the intention of both is the same. And then how do we actually address this together? And that feels much more friendly and and respectful, of course. But I think to learn that, I think maybe we have to do more work to kind of give examples of that. And that's something that we don't find so often, I feel. And like even within siblings and stuff, I see quite often that if one is bothering another, until the person says it in a kind of irritated or loud way, the other person, okay, it's not such a bad thing. You know, it's like they don't really mind or something. So then if that becomes the kind of pattern, then the person quickly goes to that extreme reaction, because they feel actually, I want to stop this. That's the only thing that stops it. And so I may as well quickly get there. So like retraining ourselves into how can we talk in a way that still is respectful, but still, helping to create some understanding. Because for myself, I find a lot of the times it's not about punishing or even that, what he did was wrong, but it's more like, how can we make sure this doesn't happen again? And sometimes the urgency comes because, like, if I was convinced or someone, I knew that, okay, this is not going to happen again because that person is understood and whatever measures need to be taken have been put into place, then I'd be fine. But because I think this person is not going to understand until I, press upon it in this way, which may not be really harsh or disrespectful, then so I think that's also part of the problem. Like, it's more about how do we communicate something, understanding without disrespect.
Important point. So the one interesting thing which also comes out of this, but I'll share that after everybody has spoken. So Drishta, Zag, Gangu, any one of you wants to share? So Pashwa, Zag, and Gangu are visiting us in Dehradun. They are with us. So I am alone in one room, and these four are in one room. So we are interacting like this. Yeah.
I will drop at 11 o'clock. I have to go somewhere.
Okay. Yes. Anybody else wants to add to this or share, say anything on this?
Yeah, I was also thinking, we've been thinking interestingly, we were talking about this quite a bit. We weren't there, surprising that you brought it up. But I feel like you're able to, actually you already said it, but we're able to be nice and polite and be firm and draw attention without.
Drishta, come closer to the mic a little bit. Your voice is, I can audible, but it's slightly distorted. If you come closer, it will be clearer.
Now?
Yeah, it's much better.
Okay. So I'm saying that, like you were saying actually already, that we are able to be firm and gentle and nice even when drawing attention to the problem without being disrespectful. I think when our internal outlook is very different about what has transpired, about the mistake. I think there's one thing, when someone commits a mistake, there is a sense that that mistake should not repeat. That is one thing, that is one feeling and one outlook. But there's a whole additional thing that happens, is that when someone commits a mistake and you get personally jarred by it, or you get personally agitated by it, that's when I think it turns into anger. It's not just that this mistake shouldn't happen. I think often it's not that just that mistake shouldn't happen, but there's some sort of exasperation or frustration, or okay, how could they have done this? Or, that is what comes along with it that leads to the disrespect, I feel. I think that is the outlook that needs to be changed. Of course, mistakes need to be fixed, and that's actually a far simpler thing, I feel. But, say, we're organizing things and I put something somewhere and I haven't told anyone that I put it there, and now it's an inconvenience. So that is definitely something that needs to be addressed. But if it is just seen as that this is a mistake that she needs to work upon, it doesn't necessarily lead to anger or frustration. But if it is seen as how could she, or, she's being something, whatever, a story along with it, about the reason behind why that was done, then it leads to, I think, anger or frustration or indignance or exasperation. And that's where the disrespect, I think, stems from, rather than the mistake itself.
Right, right.
So I think that's where our outlook needs to be adjusted.
Yeah. Important point. So anybody else wants to say something, add something? Okay. So 2 points I want to bring into this when we're dealing with this situation. First of all, we're talking about this kind of a response right now, since we are still learners, in the relationships where we are committed, long-term commitments are there, right? So within our families or with our friends or things, wherever we are comfortable, and we want to sustain these relationships. This is where we are talking about this right now. With new people, maybe, or professional circles, it might be a different thing right now. We'll come to that maybe later. But right now, even those relationships where we feel committed and the other person is also committed to us. So that is the context in which we are talking. And another place where my attention goes is that there is one part of doing, which is like maybe some mistake has happened in doing something or what needed to be done, right? So mistakes are usually in the part of action, right? And so that which needs to go on harmoniously so that our lives can go on smoothly. So that is important part. That's in the doing part. The other part of this thing is our relationship, which is basically a function of how do we feel about each other. So these 2 things have to be seen independently right now. I mean, they have to be identified separately. If we don't identify these distinctly from each other, good morning, Manjuji. Good morning, Viraj.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
No, I can't. You're not on video?
No, I'm not on a video.
Oh, I'm swapping mine too.
People are in various places where the connection might not be so good. So keep the best audio quality.
Okay.
So relationship is according to what is my sentiment towards the other person and what is the other person's sentiment is to me. Whereas the action or the doing part or the living part is a sequence of whatever actions we are doing. We are living in a household, so we are cooking, we are eating, we are cleaning up the house, we are going for our work, whatever these actions. And mistakes happen in this area. So correcting this or making a mistake in this area is right now not identified. We are not able to separate these 2. Our relationships get affected by the actions. In the sense of what we are doing, we are not able to make our sentiment towards the other person. The continuity of that sentiment gets disturbed because some event has taken place in doing, which disturbs this. So now I've been thinking about this part is that, can this be independent? My sentiment towards the other person should be stable, but the event which has taken place doing that needs to be addressed, right? That we need to pay attention to without disturbing this. So that is one point of distinction I wanted to point out in relationships where we are committed. We need to be able to pay independent attention of maintaining a relationship and independent attention to the fact that we are doing something and it needs to be done in a balanced manner, in a proper manner. So if the mistakes happen, then it should not affect our relationship part, right? Or we should be aware of that this might affect our relationship part. So if we are aware of this distinction, then probably we could work and fix this part. So that is one distinction I wanted to make. The second point I wanted to make was, and this is very important in terms of the values or the mulya that we talk about. When we initially listened to mulyas, and I also, when I heard it, it was something which would be there, which I would be getting from the other. If you look at things like respect, others should respect me. Trust, others should trust me. affection. I should get affection. So by default, human beings are built with expectation of these values. So as from newborn child to whatever age, we have the expectation of these values. So when we talk about values in the workshop, and it makes so much sense, no? Like, yeah, respect should be there, affection should be there, caring should be there, this should be there. But what is that this should be there and what sounds so right? It is like I should receive this. But the point here is that what we are talking about here, can I live with trust? Can I convey trust to the other person? Can the other person in my presence feel trust? Can the other person in my presence feel respect? Can the other person in my presence feel affection? Can the other person feel care? So it is actually something within me which is flowing out. So it's a major shift. Earlier, our upbringing has conditioned us to receive these things from others. So we are functioning, our life is designed so that we get this. So we interact in relationships where we receive this. So our whole orientation is to get more and more of this. Here we are saying by understanding, by knowledge, by clarity of our conscious, we will be able to live these. We will be able to convey these to the others. We'll be able to live with the value of respect means I am respecting the other. Living with trust means I'm trustworthy for the other. Others feel trust in my presence. The affection is flowing from me to the other. So it is the other way around. So this, if we notice, if this we start looking at, see, this is an ability which I have to, these are the fruits a human can bear, values. Just like a mango tree bears the fruit of mango, which is used by others. Similarly, humans, when they have these values, they live with these values, respect, trust. So they flow towards the other. Others are able to have a harmony with us because we are living with this. So this was an important distinction I wanted to bring about in this. Because somewhere or the other, the dialogue is also, like Sandeep Bhai was mentioning, when we talk about with people, it is more about why did you not trust me, or why did you respect me, or why did you not care for me? So it's an expression of our expectation. So here the design or what is being proposed is very different. It is about how am I living this, the trust? Am I living it or am I not living it? If I am living it, how am I living it? Is it reaching the other person? Am I trustworthy? Am I respectful? Am I affectionate? So this is the evaluation which has to take place. Whereas present prevalent conditions, what we do is the other person trustworthy? Is the other person respectful? Is the other person affectionate? That is what we are evaluating. So I hope I've been able to communicate this. So anybody's comments or thoughts on this?
Yeah, can I ask for clarification on this that you just mentioned, the second point, which was you said more important, in the sense that when you say, am I living it?
Yeah.
Earlier you said that the perception by doing this darshan is that these values I am expecting from other, like, am I getting affection? Am I getting respect? But the language you used for the second part was not giving, but rather than saying, am I living with trust? Does that not mean in the sense that I present myself to the other one with affection, which means I am on the giving side, not the receiving side? Or is it something different than living?
No, it is the same thing. It's the same thing.
Okay.
The same.
Okay. Yeah. Then that means again the bell is in our court. The ball is in our court, which is we have to work on ourselves.
Yeah. So Sandeep bhai, the basic principle which works is, and if you'll see, if you want something from this other, right? Suppose you want somebody to listen to you, right? So if you listen to them, they will listen to you. This is the basic principle. So if you want respect from the other, you have to respect them. Then they will respect you.
Correct.
And this is very simple principle. So if you want affection, be affectionate. Right? If
Okay.
you are not respectful, if you are not affectionate, if you're not caring, how will you receive it?
Got it.
Yeah. Anybody else on this? Okay. I hope I was able to communicate what I wanted to say. It reached you. Online meeting, no, one needs to hear each other. So some sharing is good.
Ashokji, I'm very curious about something that you mentioned a little earlier,
Yeah.
that in JV, correction or improvement is the punishment,
Yeah.
not really the hurt or disrespect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But hurt or disrespect comes from, uh, you know, me to the other, whereas correction or improvement happens in the other. But what causes the correction or the improvement? What makes the other person correct or improve? Because all this while, the conditioning has been that if you, somehow manage to disrespect or hurt the other person will somehow correct himself or improve himself or, whatever, right? So here there's a little bit of a question there, because here which means I need to do something or provide an environment or create an inspiration in the other to correct or improve themselves, which serves the purpose of a punishment, right? The purpose of punishment is actually, somehow we are hoping that, it's like a correction cell, right? Correction unit or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, there's some confusion in my mind about this here.
Okay. So, Manjuji, I'll just come to you after Rekha's question. See, the interesting thing in this is that if I look at myself, there are mistakes I made and I've corrected myself in time, over time, right? And what has helped me correct those mistakes is when I realize that it is a mistake. And for realizing that, I need to, a lot of times I've been able to see a better alternative for that. Okay, instead of communicating like this, if I communicate like this, it is a better alternative. So that becomes acceptable to me. So therefore I practice and pay attention and I correct myself. So this is the same mechanism which will take place in the other person, right? So for them to realize the mistake, they have to see a better example. They have to have the understanding of this thing, and so they basically needs to be inspired. Only inspiration leads to our self-correction. When we are inspired, that's what results in self-correction, right? So now for me to make, say, I am having a problem with somebody making a certain mistake, I try and help this person become aware in this issue, and then help them see it. So my work becomes more. I start, instead of harming them physically, mentally, or in any other way, I now start trying, how will this person get inspired? So understanding this person better becomes my thing. So this is how this person works. This is their worldview. And this is where this is coming from. So understanding the reason behind it, then presenting the better alternative for that reason. Without understanding the reason, we won't be able to assist them in the self-correction, right? So it is a deeper level of engagement. If you correction on the other is always going to be a deeper level of commitment from our parts. So yeah, so that is my response to this. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a clue about it, but there is something in between which is a little missing. But I think that missing link is in the understanding part, which you just mentioned, because and the word deeper engagement. So I think it's something that one can try out and introspect. And in the process of understanding, I think whatever tiny step that's missing in my head, I think that can only be filled by that and not by discussing about it. I have a feeling. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this was very interesting. Thanks for bringing this up. I don't think so. Mera dhyan is pe gaya nahi tha when we were in JV. The
Right.
correction and improvement part. It's a very interesting lid that has been opened. Thanks. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, Manju ji, you would
I have
raise
one question, now I have two.
Huh.
My first question is, are we doing collaboration too?
Yeah, we are going to do that. Before that, we were just having a chit chat. So sharing and comments.
Now the question two is that when Rekha ji asked this question, and I got another question from there, and where you explained that when you understand the other person and what is his outlook of life and all that, is this on auto mode intuitively, or you have to sit, you meet a person, you go home and sit and step by step figure it all like that? How does it happen? Because normally when I meet people, I just take them at face value and I carry.
I couldn't hear. Just come closer to the mic.
Oh, okay. You couldn't hear anything.
No, I could make out some things, but the clarity of the sound isn't there.
Okay. So what should I do?
Just come closer to the mic. It will improve.
Is it better?
Yeah.
I don't even know where the mic is. Okay. When you answered, Rekha ji, you said that when you to resolve matters, you need to understand as one of the steps what that person's worldview is, and then and once that will help. That will make you able to understand him better, that person better, and then you can operate accordingly. Now, this understanding that person, what is worldview. So when you meet a person for the first time, or second time, or 10th time, but you just know them formally. So you come home, then you sit back and you analyze it, or how do you do that? Because when I interact, for example, generally my thing was that I took it at face value and intuitively I felt this person is a good soul, not a good person.
Yeah.
So how does one do that?
Right. So so it's an interesting area. So there are certain things that we respond according to our prior conditioning. So we call this intuition, and this is what this is a major part of our personality, and there's nothing wrong with it. So the auto response mode, something is happening and we already have concluded these things, so we respond accordingly. So there is a response going. This is an issue where we are trying to raise our level of awareness. So we are bringing in some change. So which basically means the way we have been working till date, we want to improve on that. So whenever you want to change something within you, it will require some focused work on it. You'll have to contemplate on it. You will have to do some trial and error in practice, and then come to your new understanding and new ways of dealing with the situation. Once you get satisfactory results from this, then this will become your auto response. So yes, initially when we are going to do this, then we'll have to come back, sit down, think about it. What went wrong? How can I do this better? How do I understand this person better? What is the framework saying about this? Where am I making mistake in this? So all that will happen. This won't be an auto response immediately when we are talking about this. This won't be an intuitive thing immediately. For it to become intuitive, then you will have to first master this. You are intuitive about things where you're comfortable with those things. Then that's why you are intuitive in those areas. Other places where you're new to them, you have to pay attention, focused attention, and then do it. It's like learning anything. Like if first time you were learning how to ride a bicycle, then it is initially you need to pay a lot of attention, focused attention on how to do it. Once you learned it, then you don't know when you sat on it and when you reach your destination, right? So it's like that.
very satisfied with your answer. I got it.
Right.
Means you have to work on it. But okay, one more question on this. When you say when things are not working out, then you have to think. If things are not neither working out or nothing, it's still a very formal kind of thing. Then also should you analyze and figure out this person and
Of
for
course.
future movement. Yeah.
See, things might be working out right now, but there will be events where things will stop working out. No,
So it's like so much work to do.
yeah. So we need to use that time for understanding each other, attention to each other, understanding each other. Understanding is our main activity, no? See, first is observation. So observing properly. What you observe, making sense of it within you, that is the understanding part. These are constant activities. So this we have to keep doing all the time. All interactions give you some inputs. So this is what aware living on basis of awareness is all about, right?
So it means you have to learn how to observe also, no?
Yes.
Okay.
And I guess this is what is meant by mindfulness.
You can be mindful about yourself, keep a watch on yourself. But to be mindful about what the other person, you have to know what means what and does this mean that. For where the other person is speaking. Your own case, you can be mindful and keep a track.
Like it's like driving a car. You're driving, you do drive, I assume, right? So when you're driving, are you not aware of what is happening around you?
Yeah, but I don't know whether that person has bad intentions to come and pick my car. That part I won't know. I generally know the rules. I generally have some rules that I've been taught.
Right. No, I'm just taking analogy. Analogies are very always limited. What I'm saying is you're also driving, others are also driving. So the analogy is you're also living, they are also living. And now on the road, somebody is trying to overtake you and you can see a vehicle in your rear view mirror, which is coming very fast and honking and things like that. So you decide, okay, let me move to a side, let this car pass. This doesn't seem to be a stable person driving it. So you understand that situation, no?
Correct.
You take it as a constraint and do it. So you give a certain response to it. So I'm just saying in living, when you are committed together with each other in relationships and you are living together, now you need to observe each other. How this person dealing with life? So that will give you a sense of how they're looking at life. What is their worldview? Right? That will make you understand, okay, this is why this person is doing this. So this is a constant process, day-to-day living that somehow we have been conditioned not to look at this. But if you start looking at it, it's quite easy and simple to do. And when you start understanding the other person, then you can do the coordinated living together. Otherwise, you will keep on bumping into each other.
Okay, but what if you're not living and you're vaguely associated with that person?
That I will leave it out for the timing because these things need to be first tried in our committed relationships. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else wants to share anything, say anything? Otherwise, we'll move on to our presentation part. Okay. Where are we? Okay.
I was also just thinking, remembering the definition of forgiveness.
Yes.
From JV, where it says that forgiveness even is an indifference or forgetting of unnecessary. And here unnecessary is all the negative or what we feel it was not needed in any situation that we could have done without would become the unnecessary. So any mistake, any crime,
yeah,
not just it's like in the sense that in a situation, this shouldn't have happened. Say someone committed a mistake or they were deliberately bad about something. That shouldn't have happened. So it was unnecessary. So, but to be indifferent towards those things or to forget about those things, that is forgiveness. That's how he defines forgiveness. And I feel like that is a capacity. I mean, the capacity to be able to do that requires something. Like requires requires an ability to understand why those mistakes or crimes might have been committed. And so then you don't dwell on them. You don't really focus on it. You let it go. Exactly. Forgetting is letting go, basically. That's what it means. I find that very relieving, that if there is something happening, what is keeping me from letting it go? That's
very interesting point associated with this is that, see, we are not able to distinguish between the relationship and the events which are taking place, because the relationship is the connection between the conscious and the conscious, how we feel about each other, right? And this doing part is secondary to that. I mean, it is important, but it is primary is the connection between the two of us. So if we don't give this priority, then these events can become, I mean, dominant over this relationship. So if we look at this definition now from this viewpoint, that the primary thing which we are saying is the sentiment that we have towards each other in the relationship, then the event, what happened, who did what, blaming each other, this becomes secondary. So letting it go from time to time is very important in that, so that then only you can nurture the relationship through respect and trust and other values.
Okay. I will take a leave now. I'll see you later.
Okay, Sandeep bhai. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so we were supposed to do our presentation. From where were we supposed to start? We had finished till the last slide, no? This one? We talked about the universal human goal, and then the proposed human goal. We talked about this. Anybody remembers? Manjuji, you were mentioning something about collaboration too or something.
Okay, I did. So this page is a different one. Okay. This is
yeah. So this
family society. Okay, more or less. It's changed, but it's more or less.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So from here we go to an overview of human journey. So we propose this goal of resolution, which is basically clarity of mind, then prosperity, which is the material well-being, along with the relationships. So the prosperity that we talk about in today's world is material well-being only. But here, the distinction that we need to make is that this is material well-being under the umbrella of harmonious relationships. And the harmonious relationships come from the fact that we have clarity of mind, clarity of that I am a conscious entity and I am a human being with the body, and I have to fulfill certain needs of my conscious as well as body. And there is a nature is itself very orderly, existence is coexistential order, and I am participating in that. So this clarity leads to harmonious relationships. So prosperity can never be achieved by hampering our relationships, right? So harmonious relationship. And on basis of harmonious relationship, we achieve fearlessness or security in society, which is obvious. If you have harmonious relationships, there won't be any fear. And because we are fearless with each other, therefore we don't have the need to cheat or torment or exploit each other. Our relationship with nature also now start having impact, because we can function as one in the right direction. And I keep giving examples of like when you see a whole flock of birds flying together, right? So they move like one unit. But humans, we can never, or a big shoal of fish which is swimming together. It functions like one unit, but human society never functions like one unit. It is like everybody is running in different direction. This is because we don't have harmony within ourselves. So and the impact on the nature is the cumulative effect, or all the summation of all the positive and negative. The end result is the impact which goes on nature. It's like taking example of in a family, two people are being very ecologically aware, but other three are not. So they are doing their normal things. So the overall impact of the family will be detrimental to the ecology. So for this, we need to have a understanding in that unit, so that that unit's impact on nature or ecology is balanced. So humankind's impact on ecology will only be balanced when we have at least a majority of people functioning in harmony with each other, right? So that is what coexistence is all about. Those four: resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence. So to achieve this, and we talked about this because we were facing problems at individual level, strife at the family relationships level, then distrust and insecurity or fear at the society level, and imbalance at the level of human nature relationship, right? Now, to come from there to here, we need to first look at what all we have understood in our journey, human journey till date, historically, and then we will move forward, what needs to be added, right? So this is where we are. So there have been two traditional sets of philosophies that we are going to talk about. All of you have attended workshops, so you have some idea about this, but we'll just revise this so that whatever gaps there are can get filled. So the first one is materialism. So there are certain philosophies which base their whatever message in the this what we call materialism, right? So what is materialism? Materialism has three fundamental characteristics. One is about what they consider ultimate reality is matter. So any philosophy, when we look at, we'll look at three things on that. What is the ultimate reality or ultimate truth they talk about, right? Which is unchanging. So and materialism talks about matter, right? The second thing which we'll talk about is what is this, why and what is happening. So what are we perceiving with all that is happening around us, right? So that is the second part we'll talk about. And the third part is what is causing all this. So what is the fundamental causality, right? So in materialism, matter is the ultimate. So matter is the fundamental reality. That's the only truth. And what are we observing? We are observing material activity. This is what we perceive as reality. So plants growing, animals doing their own thing, planets doing their own thing, galaxy doing their own thing, atoms doing their thing. This is all material activity, and this is what existence is. This is what materialism-based philosophies propose. And what is the fundamental causality? Why is this interaction taking place? Why is there an atom? Why is there a solar system? Why are there animals? Why is evolution there? So this is based in the principle of mutual struggle in materialistic philosophies. They talk about that, like for example, in protons in an atom, they are pulling each other in different directions. Electrons want to escape, and the nucleus particles want to keep them trapped. So both of them are exerting equal forces. Therefore, there is a kind of a balance. There is a status quo which is maintained by the electrons spinning, revolving around the nucleus, right? They get trapped. Similar explanation is given about Earth and planets being in a system, in a structure of solar system, because sun's gravity is trapping them and they want to move away, and both cancel out each other. So they are in this thing. So this is the basic principle they talk about. Even the society, when the socialism, if you study any of the socialistic theories which are based in materialism, they'll talk about that. For example, Marx talked about that there are people who create capital, which are the working classes. And then there is ones who own the capital, and these are the ruling classes. So there is eternal struggle between them. So that is why the society, whatever is happening is because of this. Similarly, they'll talk about this fundamental principle of mutual struggle within our psychology also. So everything is being explained through these three things. The matter is ultimate reality, material activity is existence, and mutual struggle is fundamental causality. Okay. So any questions on this? Materialism is clear? Okay. You can interrupt at any time and ask questions. Okay. Moving on, the other set of philosophies which we come across are the religious or spiritual philosophies, which we are calling idealism, theism, or spiritualism, whichever, because these are based in something where the fundamental reality is considered to be some ideal substance. In a lot of philosophy, it is the God or the spirit or the essence of the existence, which is formless thing, right? So they talk about this ideal substance. Okay, that is the ultimate reality. And whatever is happening that we observe around us, which we call existence, these planets, the animals, the plants, the human beings, the atoms and everything, this is all God's creation. Okay. And what is the cause behind this? So this is called as divine will. It is the divine will which is causing everything. Why is anything happening? The cause behind it is ultimately it is God's will or divine will. This is the fundamentals of all the idealistic or spiritualistic schools of thoughts. Okay. So one is talking about matter. Matter, what is matter? Matter is that which can be perceived through our senses. Like you can touch your laptop or phone, whatever you are joining this meeting with. It is a material thing, right? So material things you can perceive through your senses. And also, our senses also have some limitation. So humans have created technology, instruments, which can sense beyond our limits of our senses. Like things which we can't see with our eyes, we have instruments like microscopes, which will help us see things much smaller than what we can perceive from our eyes to see them. Similarly, we have telescope. We can't see, we can only see till a certain distance with our eyes. So we have now telescopes which can see way beyond the limit. So anything which can be perceived through our senses or instruments is being defined as matter, right? So that is what matter is. So matter, the fundamental reality, that's why if you in science, you come across this concept of what is reality that can be perceived through senses. Anything which is beyond senses or instruments is not real. That is a myth. This is what their proposition in materialism is. So modern science, modern education, all schools of subjects, all the various areas of education, they are basically based in materialism today. Whatever is taught in schools and universities, this is the materialistic philosophy is the basis of that. Every education model will have an educational philosophy.
Rajendra Singh Tunga, it's your properties.
Okay. So, yeah. So every school of thought, every subject or every topic that we study in modern education, based on modern education, is rooted in materialism. This is what the fundamental basis of it is. Whereas what is the idealism or spiritualism based in? It is based in something which is the ideal thing or which is the perfect thing. Okay. So this perfect or the ideal, which at places is called God or given some other kind of a name, is not perceivable through senses. This is a very important distinction they make. So we cannot perceive this ideal thing with our bodies using any sense or any combination of senses.
Rajendra Singh Tunga or Rajendra Singh Tunga, it's your property.
Sorry, I'm getting a call which I'll attend to after a few minutes. So yeah, so ideal substance, right? So this cannot be perceived through senses. Now, then what is this that we perceive through senses? What do they have to say about this? So here the concept is that the ideal substance is the truth, is the permanent reality, which is unchanging. Truth is always defined as something which is unchanging, which is changeless. So that's why the ideal substance, there is no change in it. So this is the basic assumption there. So truth is something which is unchanging and which is permanent. Okay. So whatever we perceive through our senses, now we are looking at, say, a tree. Tree is always changing. So it is not permanent. It is anitya. In Hindi, the word is anitya, which is not nitya. Nitya means which is eternal or which is continuous. Okay. So truth cannot be discontinuous. It cannot be there only for some duration. It has to be there for all durations, right? So this, whatever senses are perceiving, whether visually or through our ears or through our sense of smell or through our sense of touch, these are all changing realities. Because these are changing, ever changing, things can never be the fundamental truth. So truth is beyond senses. This is the projection which is done in the schools of idealism and spiritualism. So you cannot perceive the fundamental reality through senses. So how do you identify it? How do you experience it? So then there are some spiritual practices they talk about, some sort of a practice that you have to undergo, and then your conscious is able to experience it. This is the message there. So this ideal substance is beyond senses. So senses are, in fact, considered a barrier in realization of this. In materialism, senses are your ultimate tools. In this, they are a hindrance. So there's these two, both these schools stand at very opposite end of the spectrum. One is totally saying that senses are a barrier, and one is saying the senses are the only. So they can never have a mutual understanding, these two schools of thought. So a lot of people try to mix these without realizing these two parts. These can't be mixed together. Spiritualism and materialism, because they both, the fundamentals are so different. One is denying senses totally, and other is only basing on senses, and anything beyond senses is unreal. So these can never have a coexistence with each other in this form, right? So any questions on this, about these two, materialism and spiritualism? Anyone? I hope this distinction is clear. What is this materialism school and what is the idealism or spiritualism school? And what are the three fundamentals on which we are defining this, right? So, okay, moving on. So the materialistic schools of thought, they have been around for thousands of years. Similarly, the spiritualistic schools of thought have also been around for thousands of years. Both have been around since the times immemorial, from prehistoric times. Even before writing existed, these schools of thoughts existed. Humans have always been theorizing things, have always been having philosophies. They've always tried to perceive, and whatever, see, they observe something. Whenever they observe, they try to perceive some sense or meaning of it. When they make a meaning of it, they theorize. This is what it is. So this we have been doing since the time we have been on this planet, right? That is, this defines us as human beings, this whole ability to see things through a basis of a framework. So there is no person ever who didn't have a framework or who doesn't need a framework. We always have a framework. Whether that framework is complete or incomplete, that's the only difference. So human being will always have a framework, a worldview, a philosophy to look at the world. So there is no human being without philosophy or without a framework of reference, right? So that needs to be understood. So because humans have had materialistic frameworks also, so what have we achieved through this? we have been able to develop resources and technology to fulfill basic and higher needs of humankind. So development of resources and technology, what does that mean? Like earlier we were just food gatherers and we would just take what was available in nature and use it directly. Then slowly we realized that we could process these resources. We could take things and change their forms. And once we understand how to change this is what technology, when we understood this, we started changing things. Like earlier, initially the food was the only thing which was edible at that moment and we could eat it. Then we realized we could also grow food. So that is also a technology. We could also preserve food. That was also technology. And similarly, clothing, shelter. We were earlier taking shelter under trees or in caves or something like that. Then we realized that we could actually arrange the materials into a place where we could take shelter. And so the housing industry started. From mud structures to stone structures to various other kinds of structures, wood structures, bamboo structures, different geographical regions, whatever resources were available, they were utilized, developed, and the technology also developed on basis of that. And this provided us food, clothing, shelter. These are the basic needs. What are the higher needs of humankind? Higher needs are transportation and telecommunication, right? So transportation is moving from one place to the other. So we were nomadic. Yeah. So the second point is that materialism promoted access to education. So if you look at last few 100 years, when the industrialization has taken place, let's take that example. So for technology development and resource development, and with coming of the industrial age, there were a lot more people needed to work in the so-called factories or industries. And for that, they needed training, because technology requires some learning on our part. So how to handle tools, how to handle resources, how to handle raw materials, how to process them. This all requires learning. So to establish this learning, the systematic learning, teaching places were developed, promoted, and this led to the spread of education. So the modern spread of education, a major part has also come from the materialistic schools of thoughts. And because for the development of technology and utilization of technology, education was promoted, so that a lot more production, a lot more goods could be made and transported and utilized in various parts of the world. So that's all. The next is progress in technical education. And because we were constantly working with resources and technology, the technical education started evolving, and it evolved into a higher form, and over thousands of years, we now have more means of transportation, which can take us from one planet to the other. We have means of communication. We can talk across our solar system and we can communicate. You know that the first, there were 2 satellites launched in early 70s, which are called the Voyager 1 and 2. They are now beyond the solar system, nearly out into the interstellar space, but they're still sending signals to planet Earth, and we are able to get the data from there. So communication is taking place from such a vast distance, right? And so this is the development of technology, right? And therefore, and in 73, those people who were there, the scientists, they're not there anymore. There are new scientists who are managing all this. So they all have learned this, right? From one generation to the other. When we talk about education or production or anything, always remember what is happening from one generation to the other to the other. So humans live from one generation to the other, they pass on things. That is our final thing, right? So what our learnings we pass on from one generation to the other. That is also one of our needs. The next point is breaking of social dogma in favor of maximizing production. So because traditional communities which were there, which were, say, based in religions or spiritualism or other places, they had their own social restrictions or way of living. And they slowly, initially they were there for some purpose, and slowly that purpose was lost and they became dogmas. And these dogmas then started hampering the human growth. But with the coming of materialistic or spread of materialistic philosophy, their dominance increasing. For example, if you have to work in a factory, it doesn't matter what background you have, whether you are of this caste or that religion, doesn't matter. You just come and do the work and you'll get paid. So people of different backgrounds, different religion, different caste, different creeds were working together. So this broke, and people started initially, like for example, different races perceived each other in different ways. But with the spread of materialism and the spread of, say, industrialized environments, people of different backgrounds, different races started working together each other. You got the opportunity to observe each other. So you could see that we are not much different from them, except for maybe appearance. So all of us have different kinds of appearances, but we have similar abilities. So why anybody from any race can be a good worker, can be a good teacher, can be a good lawyer, can be a good doctor, and things like that. That's happened. But earlier it was believed to be only certain people of certain races. Every race believed that who could be like that. Every caste believed in similar thing. Every religion thought these people are non-deserving, those people don't know anything, they're backward. But all this disappeared. These dogmas were broken by this. Okay. Then we come to we'll maybe do the shortcoming the next time, or maybe let's just do this very quickly. 5 minutes we have. Dedication of education and technological advancements for business and all. So whatever development which took place in terms of technical education and technological advancements, this was for the purpose of business, that is profiteering, and for war. Right? It wasn't for the human welfare. Human welfare was secondary. First was making profit or exploiting or war. Like, for example, this internet came about because it was a tool for war. Most of our technologies have come out of research being done for war or research being done for business, how to make more profit, right? The human welfare was a side effect. Now internet connects the whole world together. This is a side effect. This was not thought to be the main goal of for this research, right? So the dedication of education and technological advancements for business and war, this is a shortcoming of materialism. Out of the materialistic philosophy, this whole idea of exploiting, this whole capitalistic economic system, this all comes out of that only, right? So it is getting committed for business and war. Then for business and war, accepting oppression, revolt, exploitation as legitimate means. So all these are thought to be legitimate means, oppressing some sections of society, right? Right now, what is happening in, say, Palestine and Israel, or if you look at the industrial age, the imperialistic age, the whole of the third world, so-called third world, was oppressed, right? Then revolt. Revolt is also a means which is considered. When there is oppression, there is also revolt. Exploitation, all that is happening in this economic system is various forms of exploitation, right? Whether it is between companies and citizens, whether it is between two nations, whether it is between two communities, exploitation is everywhere, right? And from periodically war to war is considered to be means. So if somebody is not listening to you or is not accepting you, then we will do like what Israel is doing on Palestine is a war. All wars are for basically suppressing some way of looking at things or some worldviews or some philosophies. In the end, they boil down to that. So these are thought to be the legitimate means of doing things. There is nothing wrong with war. War is glorified. Exploitation is glorified. Oppression and revolt are glorified, right? So when you listen to, if you read literature, look at audio video means and things like that, you'll find glorification of all this, right? Accepting cajolery, bribery, threat, and guile as policy. If you remember, we said this in the workshop that these are all the English words that we've come up with for a very popular phrase, Sam, Dam, Dand, and Bhed. Right? So these are basically a means of exploitation. Exploitation has been considered as policy. So exploiting is a policy. Whereas if you understand humanness, you'll realize that exploitation can never be a policy of a human. It is an inhuman policy, basically, only used by inhumans. Okay. So the modern education system is spreading this policy of exploitation. And also the result of pollution, climate imbalance, global warming as a result of environmental exploitation that this is also a negative impact or shortcoming of materialism. We all know in the cities that we live in, they're very polluted, our rivers are polluted, our land is polluted. The climate change is taking place, the weather patterns are changing, global warming is taking place, our polar ice is melting, the Himalayas glaciers are melting. So we are facing a very drastic situation. And all of the society, every interaction is becoming plagued by this profiteering or profit mentality. So if you look at society, everywhere people say, what is there for me in this interaction? So this is becoming very rampant. In fact, if you look at urban centers, then even young children, when they're interacting with each other, at times this can be seen. They will be exchanging for gaining something materially from them, not for gaining relationships, not for gaining a good social environment, but for making material gains. This has become which is very detrimental for society, because society is a network of relationships. So in this materialism-based capitalism, there is no society as such. There is only a crowd. And this crowd interacts only on fear and greed basis. And this is what the problems are which we are facing right now. So we have isolation of individuals, and there is strife in any sorts of relationships. And as society also, the traditional communities or societies are also struggling. So humankind is struggling because of this, because there is no reliable relationships anymore. Education being plagued with extreme obsession for profit, obsession for consumption, and obsession for sex. So these obsessions are being transferred in our future generations. So by generation, these obsession with profit, obsession with consumption, and obsession with sex, these are increasing. And all these three are needed in a balanced manner. Consumption, profit, or sex, these are needed for a balanced life. But the obsession with them and these becoming the only things in life, this is what is being promoted right now. So, yeah. I guess this is the last point on this slide. No. The final point is inability to study and understand humans. So we've not been able to understand the human being till date. And we've materialism has only talked about us as another species of animals, and we have tried to take inspiration from animals. Badi machli choti machli ko khati hai, so therefore exploitation is a big fish eats the smaller fish. So that it's fine. So exploitation is fine. So we have thought of ourselves as animals and try to live as animals. But if somebody calls us an animal, we don't like it. So this contradiction is there for us to see. If somebody calls us an animal, that is not acceptable. But we define ourselves as animals, social animals, right? But just one, I'll always raise this in the introductory workshops, that which animal is not social? From ant to elephant, all of them interact in communities. They always cooperate and they always do things together. In fact, the most antisocial thing is human beings right now. So this at least can't define human beings. So we've not been able to understand human beings on the basis of materialistic philosophies, materialistic schools of thoughts. Okay. So today we talked about the two philosophies, the achievements of materialism and shortcomings of materialism. Let's give it another 5-7 minutes if you have any questions, but I suppose this is very simple and straightforward. Yes, anybody? Okay, I guess everybody is familiar with these concepts. This is the easy part. So fine. So tomorrow, next Sunday, we'll continue with the, what date is next Sunday? Is the 28th. Oh, so I won't be available from next Sunday onwards for nearly 1.5 months because I'll be in various workshops. I'm going to, from 28th, my workshop is starting at Hapur. It's a advanced level workshop. Then I move on to Chhattisgarh, Raipur, where I have 2 weeks of workshops, and then I go to Hyderabad for a workshop. So continuous workshops till mid-September. So then, but others, Dishta, maybe you can keep continuing this. Is it possible for you to continue? Dishta? You probably see the way.
Yes, she said okay.
Okay. Yeah, fine. Good. Fine then. So bye, see you. And we've been having some early morning meetings with Shabar Bhai and his group. Rekha Didi has joined, Sandeep Bhai has joined that. Now we are 6 of us. We meet every day at 6 to 7. A very short meeting, but regular meeting. Any of you who's interested in joining that are most welcome to join it. Okay, if you are interested, then do message me and I'll give you the link. Okay. Okay, then bye everyone. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhaiya.
Thank you, Didi, for being here.